Alright guys, welcome back to the shop. So this video is going to be kind of a preamble to the next project video that's going to be coming out. So it's going to give a little bit of extra background to that video hopefully, and kind of help you guys understand where some of the ideas for that specific project came from. Because that bag that we're going to be making is going to be another iteration of basically these two bags you can see sitting here. And so I wanted to show you guys these bags because it helps add a little bit of extra context to when I actually make that next bag as to some of the choices in that I made. And we'll talk about some of those choices near the end of the video here. I haven't actually started making that bag yet, but I've been planning it out on some things that I want to change with a few key characteristics. So without further ado, the first bag we're going to talk about here is this one. So this is a really nice bag that I made a few weeks ago, and it's been basically my go-to bag for going back and forth to work because I actually really love the overall design and shape of it. So this bag came from a set of patterns that I bought on Etsy. It was very inexpensive. I think it was like 15 bucks Canadian, which is not too bad. And there'll be a link to the set of plans in the description down below. I highly recommend if you guys are looking into making bags with leather and canvas, you check this out because it's a really good set of plans or patterns, whatever terminology you want to use. And what I really liked about the way that the designer made this set of patterns is the fact that he planned it fully around using a sewing machine. As you guys can see behind me, I have a very expensive leather sewing machine, and I really want to learn how to use it because one of the problems that I've found quite often with a lot of other leather bag plans is that they tend to focus mostly on hand stitching because that's where most people kind of stop with their leather work. Most people don't go out and spend this much money on a sewing machine. I'm a little bit ridiculous. But that's kind of where I wanted to figure out because I want to get from that hand stitching stage over to working with other materials, because when you start working with canvas, all of a sudden hand stitching becomes a lot more complicated to the point where it's not really possible. And so to make a bag like this, you really do need a sewing machine, and that is what I was super excited to try out. And I'm happy to say that the plans were absolutely perfect. There was, they were super easy to follow. The designer even has a step-by-step video on YouTube that was super easy to follow. So yeah, if you guys are interested in getting into bag making using a sewing machine, again, that link to that Etsy shop will be in the description down below. I highly recommend you check it out. So first off with this bag, kind of the key features that I liked about it initially, even going beyond the fact that it was meant to be made on a sewing machine, overall the design of it is very clean and kind of simple in a way, but not simple in a bad way, simple in a good way. And I think it's also important to mention the way that I actually initially found this pattern. It was a great side thing that it was to be made on a sewing machine, but the original thing that I was trying to figure out was how to line a bag, and that is exactly what this pattern called for. So basically, we've got this 15-ounce canvas that makes up the outside of the bag, and then on the inside, I've got some wool fabric that I bought a long time ago, which just makes a really interesting and kind of unique lining. I've also got all my inner edges trimmed with leather, so overall, this bag is just kind of, it's an interesting, I don't know, it's just kind of the exact bag I wanted to try and figure out how to make as kind of a starting off point. So again, going back to the overall design of this thing, I really like that it was just kind of some nice simple shapes. So basically to make this bag, you're just taking these large panels and you're just building them up space by space. So you have your front panel where you then stitch on your front pocket. Then you take your inside piece, which is your inside lining piece, which you have a little bit of like pin holders and that on. You stitch those two together. And then to make your back, you have your back piece, then you have a bit of interfacing material, or I don't know if that's the right terminology. Stiffening material, actually, I think is the right terminology. So it's just a piece. In this case, I used a piece of 3/8 neoprene, which is a little bit too squishy. I would do it differently, which I did do differently on the other bag. But then you put your inside liner, and then you line up your pocket, you stitch all these pieces together, and then basically by the time you have those two outside panels, you stitch on your nice gusset and you kind of roll things out, and it just works so beautifully. Like the way that this bag is put together is actually really interesting. And the overall, again, the design of it where you kind of break up your gusset so you have leather on the bottom, you've got this leather lining along the zipper, you've got these nice canvas sides. Overall, I really like the design of this bag. Now, what I don't really like about this bag, because again, this is the whole thing, how you improve, is discussing the pros and cons. So pros of this bag, the overall design is really good. A couple of cons that I found, for me personally, this is my personal thing. I've talked to a few different people about this, and some people absolutely love this. But for me, it's these handles. I don't like the looseness of these handles because unless you have them buttoned up, they tend to just kind of flop around on you. And for my own personal way of thinking, I like everything to be tight and buttoned up. I don't like things moving around. unless they're meant to be moving around. Something like the shoulder strap is meant to be loose. I really don't like the fact that these handles are kind of loose and floppy. So that was one of the things. The other thing that I ran into an issue, and this is not going to go back to the pattern, this comes back to my own skill set, and that is kind of this inside trim that I did. So I used some 3-ounce leather to trim these inside edges, and what I found is that the inside edges went from being nice and crisp to, after I sewed that in there, to being a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit too bulky. So the bag doesn't sit quite as nicely as I think it's supposed to. So again, one of those things, the handles, that's kind of from the pattern, and that's one of the things I changed in my iteration of the bag. But that inside trim is one of the things that I still have to kind of figure out how to do going forward. And so overall, this bag has performed really nicely. I absolutely love carrying it to work. I've gotten tons of compliments on it. The fact that I made it, people are actually genuinely impressed, because I mean, the people I work with are kind of figuring out that I'm kind of a nut job when it comes to what the things that I randomly seem to make, given that I make furniture and bags and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, they've kind of gotten used to it. But yeah, it's just a very nice, clean, simple aesthetic bag. And yeah, I'm just, again, very happy with it. But even though I really like this bag, I did look at it as there's potential for adaptations and improvements. So that comes to my redesign of that same bag. So this follows the exact same idea of a pattern. So we're building out our front panel, we're building out our back panel, basically all in the same way. I did do a few things differently here, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the key thing here is I wanted to solve this strap problem that I didn't like on this bag. I wanted something that was at a little bit of a cleaner aesthetic, because I'm a bit torn on whether I like having these two pockets visible on this bag. You know, we've got the zipper exposed on the top and the zipper exposed on the front. So I wanted to try covering them up and kind of going for a little bit of a cleaner aesthetic. So what I will say right off the bat with this bag is that I really love the look of this one, but it definitely does have some, I don't know, it's definitely not as functional of a bag. Like when I go to work, I can hang this bag on the back of my chair and I can leave that zipper open and I can very easily grab whatever I need out of it while I'm at work. Whereas with this one, you know, we've got this flap, we've got 2 buckles I have to undo every time I want to get into it. I got 2 buckles and then zippers that I have to undo to get into it. It's a few more steps to just get into the bag, which again, it's small things, and I got to play around with that a little bit more. I haven't actually started taking this one to work yet, because I was kind of finishing off some design ideas with it for the next iteration. But yeah, I might start using this one pretty soon here, just to kind of see which way I kind of like, you know, or which style I kind of like personally, because what I did find with using this one is, again, yeah, I like the functionality if you can just open the zipper, but again, that comes with the cost of the look of this one, I don't think is as clean as the look of this one. So that was one of the first big changes when I went into the design process, is I wanted to figure out how to add a flap. Because the flap actually adds a couple of different complications that this bag doesn't have. And that is, we have to have these mounting points on the front, which honestly was pretty easy. I just kind of riveted on some pieces to that front panel. Pretty easy. But on the back, that's where it got a little bit more complicated, because as I was building out that back panel, I had to figure out a way to attach this flap and kind of blend it into everything else and keep everything having that interior rolled stitch. So basically, I just stitched that back flap to our back panel, put this nice covering piece over the edge of it to kind of blend our seams in, and overall it came out with an actually really beautiful and clean aesthetic. The other thing that I wanted to do with this bag that is slightly different is that I wanted to focus a little bit more on internal organization. Because this bag has just the 2 pockets, and then on the inside it has a little sleeve for holding like a laptop, and that works great. But the thing I find personally that I really like on a lot of the other bags that I own is when a bag has a lot of internal organization. This one also does have a couple slots that you could fit like a phone or pens and that kind of stuff in. But again, internal organization is a big thing for me. So I also want to play around with zippers, because I'm still trying to figure out how to put zippers in properly, as funny as that sounds. So I put zippers everywhere I possibly could. So our top flap here, it got lined with some 10-ounce canvas. So we've got 3-ounce leather on the front, and then 10-ounce canvas on the inside, and just for the hell of it, I threw a zipper in there, and this just goes into, and you can just see the leather on the inside there. So it just gives you a little bit of extra storage here. Again, with the flap, you don't want to be packing it full of stuff, because that's going to really make the bag look ugly. But overall, that does add a little extra functionality. Then we also have our same front pocket, and again, that has just a little bit of extra organization in there. Then when we get to the inside, there is a pocket on the front portion. I believe I have a slightly larger pocket on the backside, so it's kind of that same laptop sleeve idea. And I'll try to capture as much of this as I can in some B-roll so I can overlay it so I can show you guys, because yeah, the hard part about bags is it's kind of complicated to show the interior of it without rolling the whole thing inside out, and that's actually very challenging to do with these bags, and I don't want to risk damaging them or anything. But yeah, we got a lot more internal organization within this bag, and that is one of the things that I actually really did like. So even though I'm adding in more zippers, which then increase the cost of making the bag and kind of increases the complexity of the bag, I do like having a little bit more internal organization. Just more places to stick things, and especially because we have all these spots where we have, like on this bag, we've got that space between our liner piece and our outer 15-ounce canvas here. That space can very quickly and easily become a pocket. In this case, in this bag, it's just kind of dead space. So when I was looking at this bag, I figured if I just throw a zipper on that inner lining piece, all of a sudden we go from having kind of dead space that's not being used for anything to now it can add a little bit of extra internal organization. So overall, the main thing with this bag was just trying to do things in a little bit of a cleaner aesthetic with that flap, as well as kind of maximizing that internal organization. So it came out pretty good. The one thing you might notice too is that this bag is slightly smaller. For this one, I didn't want to copy it exactly, so I kind of changed up the ratio just to kind of see what I liked a little bit more. So I went for a slightly narrower body, and then I think I went for a like a 16:9 ratio for the bag, if I remember correctly, which is just slightly different than this one. I don't remember what the exact ratio is for this one. But again, I wanted to kind of basically take everything I learned on this bag and I fully redesigned this one from the ground up. So I didn't take any of the components from this. I basically just kind of took the same ideas from this bag and worked from the ground up. So it was kind of an interesting way of working, and I definitely learned a lot between making both of these bags. So for the next iteration of these bags that I'm going to be making in the next video, there's a couple key things I'm going to be changing up. So for one, I think that I want to get rid of the flap. I don't know if I really like that, and again, I think that just kind of, I don't know, I think it's a little bit excessive on here. I just want to try making another bag that looks a little bit more like this. But what I do want to keep from this is this really nice, clean, aesthetically pleasing handle that I have on top. This is honestly the best carry handle I've ever made on a bag so far. So for some reason, well, not for some reason, I'm actually starting to kind of learn a thing or two about working with leather, but it just came together super nicely. So what I'm thinking is I can take basically this design of a handle, slap it on the back of basically this shape of a bag, and that gets rid of my, you know, kind of floppy, loose top handles that I'm not a huge fan of on this bag. So that kind of blends both bags together, and you know, both kind of blends what I like about both of the bags together. One of the other things we're going to be trying on this next bag is going for some modern, more fancy technologies, if that's a good way to put it. So we're going to be using YKK Vislon zippers. So we're kind of going for that blacked out look, just because this is, again, something I want to try. Both of these bags, I used brass zippers, which I think have a little bit more of a classic look. One of the things I will note here too, on the first bag, I used brass zippers, and then all of my hardware was black. I also used some copper rivets. So overall, this bag was very much just a mishmash of whatever hardware I have, and I had a lot of black hardware, which because that's mostly what I like using. Whereas this bag, I went for everything with this nice antique brass hardware. So our buckles, our zippers, everything uses that antique brass coloring, and I do think it does look a little bit more uniform. But what I'm going for on this next one is I want to go kind of this same look, but kind of, again, blacking everything out. So I want black zippers, I want to use black hardware, so that way we kind of get that uniformity that I was kind of going for, that I kind of would like to see on this bag with that black hardware that I have. So that's kind of the downside and kind of the benefit of these modern zippers. So this, even though it has that plasticky texture to it, which I think a lot of people are not going to like in a bag of this quality, it's just something I want to try because I do think it's going to add, for me personally, I think it's going to add a nice touch because this is kind of more of the look that I like. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of the brass. So the other thing we're going to be playing around with on this bag is the fabric of choice. So this is 1000D Cordura fabric. Now, if you guys have never heard of that before, basically any hiking bag you buy at any outdoor store right now is usually going to be made from Cordura fabric because it is the kind of the be-all and end-all of outdoorsy fabrics. So what it is it's basically a nylon canvas. So rather than having a cotton canvas, which is what I used on these bags, they use nylon threads to weave this canvas, which makes it way more abrasion resistant, and overall it's just a little bit tougher. Now it does have a higher chance of melting if brought into contact with flame directly, which is, you know, a bit of a trade-off, but it is far more abrasion resistant. It's also, I can't remember if this stuff is either fully waterproof or I think it's like got a very high level of water repellency because it's got this coating on the inside that actually makes it much more water repellent. So kind of blending that with our leather is going to be an interesting touch. And that's one of the things that I really want to find out with this next bag, and kind of the reason that I'm making a third iteration of these bags is because before I kind of mess around with combining this Cordura and leather on a bigger project, more expensive one, I want to do it on here so I can kind of see how it looks. Now the only problem that I'm currently kind of having is when I was buying this Cordura fabric, I bought 3 different colors of green basically, and now that I have them here, I'm almost thinking that I don't really like the idea of the green. That almost looks like I'm trying to make like a tactical bag, which is not really what I'm trying to go for. I'm going for more of like a everyday use bag. So I'm gonna play around with it because I do like the green colors. Like green is one of my favorite colors, which is why I ended up buying the fabrics in that color. But I also know that you can get the same Cordura fabric in like dark browns, medium browns, a whole bunch of different shades, honestly. I do have it in black as well, so I may end up trying to use that on the bag. I still don't quite know what I want to do with this bag, with the new design. I'm just kind of working on the ideas, but I might end up using the black Cordura just to try and keep things more uniform, plus that overall blacked out look with the black zippers, black hardware, and a black fabric could honestly look pretty cool. I even have some really nice black leather that I could potentially use, and actually I'm really liking that idea. Now that I say that out loud, that could look really cool, especially if we have everything. I think that that's actually the plan for our bag. We might just, if I have enough of that black leather. Oh yeah, I do. So this is that leather that I'd use. So yeah, we're gonna use the, this is one of the things I love about making these random videos, and this is one of the things I always make these kind of random videos on Instagram and that in my stories. I figured I'd bring them over here to YouTube where, you know, more people actually watch my stuff, because when I just kind of ramble on like this is where I get like 90% of my really good ideas. So I think for this next bag, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna make a fully blacked out version and just kind of see how it looks, honestly, because I've got plenty of this. It's slightly thicker than the leather that I used on here. On these bags, I was using a 3 to 4 ounce leather. This is a 4 to 5 ounce leather. So slightly thicker, which is gonna make things a little bit more difficult. But at the same time, by using this leather, that Cordura fabric, this black zipper, and then all that beautiful black hardware that I have, I could actually make something that looks really cool. So yeah, man. I was very excited to try out this bag, you know, working with that Cordura fabric, but now I'm honestly even more excited because I've got a really cool idea in my head now of how this thing is gonna look. So yeah, that's a really cool thing about making these videos. So anyway, now you guys know what's coming up in that next project. We're basically gonna be making a similar bag to these two here, but we're gonna be making it in that kind of fully blacked out version. So make sure you guys stay tuned. If you're not already, please subscribe to the channel so you can see when that video comes out, because it should be coming out in the next week or so here, hopefully. And yeah, as always, guys, I do hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next one.